All right, it's 5:05. Welcome, everybody, to the, what is today? February 5th meeting, 2025. First one for 2025 for the Delaware Bicycle Council. We're going to go ahead and do a roll call, make sure we have a quorum. So we got Walt. Walt's here.
Yep.
Lauren.
Here, hi everyone.
Fran is here. Matt Cochran.
I'm sorry.
Tom Hartley.
Okay. I'll give you a call.
Tom Hartley is here. I am here. Scott Hoffman. Mike Kremrine.
I am here.
Marty.
Here.
Jackie. No, Jackie. Wendy.
I'm here.
Mike Tyler.
Hi, this is Jackie. Sorry.
Jackie's here. Welcome, Jackie. Mike Tyler. I see Mike Tyler. Mike, is your audio working?
He's on there as a guest.
Okay, he needs to be promoted to attendee. Oh, Mike. We'll come back to you, Mike Wagner.
Here.
James Wilson.
Participant. He's a guest. Okay.
Where the heck is James Wilson? John Wheatley.
John Wheatley's here, and as a lifelong Orioles fan from Sussex County, the Nationals jersey does bother me quite deeply.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree. We can make a motion about that later.
All right.
Pam Steinbach. Bach. Okay, so we got no James, no Mac. All right, so we definitely have a quorum, everybody. And next thing, we'll just get the names of the public meeting participants and let us know if you would like to talk during the public comment section. So before we get everybody online, just to let you know that Malcolm Jacob is here from the Kent Dover MPO. He's on the agenda on a new business. So what other public folks do we have?
That way. Hi, everyone. Probably can't see me, but oh no, you don't have to do.
You're good on that. We want to
Get home.
there you go. There's Malcolm waving everybody. So we want to check who do we have for attendees, turn them on so they can make a comment if they're gonna talk during public comment.
Bill Willard.
So Bill Weller. Bill? You there?
Let me see if I can give.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. And I would like to make a public comment.
Okay, who's next? Maureen.
Hi, this is Maureen. I'm here. I am not planning on making a public comment.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank
Who's
you.
next?
This is Jackie Lukowski, and yeah, I plan on making a public comment.
Jackie. Hold on, let me get your last name there, Jackie.
Lukowski.
Who we got next?
Karen C.
Karen. Karen Z, are you on?
Hi. I just have a quick question when it comes time for public comment.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Lynn. I'm not gonna try to pronounce your last name, Lynn. She's muted.
And she has permission to speak.
Okay. Lynn, you're muted. You need to unmute. We'll come back to you, Lynn. Art, or not sure how to pronounce that one. Last name is Aurora.
Hi, I'm just listening in.
Okay.
Pam here.
Pam is supposed to be a panelist. Next we have
Patricia.
Patricia.
Big John, nice hat.
I'm here. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Patricia, are you wanting to speak during the public comment? Oh, that was Pam. Okay.
Well, Patricia here. Patricia is there. Peter H.
Yeah, can Patricia speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm just here to listen. I'm not going to make any comments.
Thank you.
And Peter H.
Peter H.
Peter Haig, I don't plan to make any public comments.
Okay, so we got to go back to, I think Lynn. We didn't hear from Lynn if she wanted to speak or not.
She just dropped off.
Oh, she dropped off. Okay. All right, so we have Bill would like to speak, Karen Z, and Patricia. If there's anybody else, just let us know when we get to the public comment thing and we'll get you in.
There's the guy over here. That's a work.
Take it over now? All right, we are under item 1. Minutes review from December 4th, 2024.
You didn't welcome everybody.
I did welcome everybody. You were on the phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. You do a wonderful job.
Anybody have any questions or revisions on the minutes?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I guess Bill Weller could address this. He talked about it last time, but has anything been decided about that level of traffic stress 4? And secondly, what's the status, if any, of the roundabout redesign moratorium? Both of those items are in the minutes.
But are they wrong?
Are they raw?
Correct.
No, I don't know what you mean.
Well, this is Mike Tyler. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the 5 Points meeting and they are going to fix that entrance onto where Jay Kirby was taken by a car. They're going to make that so it's a very slow right turn to get onto Kings Highway from Route 1. So that was one thing that Bill Weller had asked me to address the council on, and that's going to be taken care of.
Okay.
So Walt, do you want to make any changes to the minutes?
I just had the question. I'd like to know.
Okay,
I'll write it. I'll gladly write a letter to y'all for the next meeting about my thoughts on what ought to be done with the roundabout redesign.
okay.
That's the short version. That don't take up any time. Move on, Scott.
Gotcha. Well, we need a motion to approve the minutes. If there's
You
no
just got it. I made,
I think Walt made the motion. I'll
right.
second it.
So, Walt. Anybody opposed to approving the minutes? H. That's a no. Minutes approved. Next, agenda item is public comment. So first, please activate Bill Weller.
Can you hear me? Hi there.
Yes, we can hear
I
you, Bill.
think, hi, thank you. I was going to ask the question that Mike Tyler answered a few minutes ago. How the 5 Points group was receptive. Sounds like the 5 Points group was receptive to adding the Kings Highway Route 1 intersection modification to their project tracking. So thank you, Mike. And thank you, everyone with the council, with making sure that that got through.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So next is Karen Z.
Hello. Hey, I just had a quick question. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but is there any chance we might be able to consider the Hawk signal and all the items that went with that, moving it south, being as you're not going to need it where the new lights are? Any chance you could move it south to across from the Big Fish Grill going over to Church Street?
Is that a question for John? I think that's a question for you, John. So I'm not sure what she's talking about.
I know, excuse me, the existing Hawk signal if she's talking about the one at Hollingway is being removed to a four-legged signalized intersection. So I think Karen is asking if that Hawk signal could be relocated elsewhere.
Okay.
I'm not a traffic studies engineer, but I would assume something like that would have to go through our traffic section to be studied and determine if something of that nature is warranted at that intersection.
But you don't know of any plans right now?
I don't know of any plans
Okay.
of any type of improvements at that intersection at this time. No.
Just wanted to put that thought out there. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Karen. Next we have Patricia.
I said I was just listening, just listening.
I'm sorry.
I had said I was going to have comment. This is Jackie Wukowski.
Jackie. Okay, Jackie, you're up.
Hi, so this is my first meeting, but I'm very enthusiastic about biking and taking the train and going on rails to trails and all that fun stuff. So I'm excited about that. I'm someone that lives in the North Wilmington area and works in Newark, and I'd love one day to be able to bike to work. So I was just curious of the status of the Wilmington Loop project. It looks like that's still going under some feasibility or something. And also, is it the Newport to Newark segment of the jam? I'm not sure. There was some plan that I wasn't clued into.
So I don't know the status of the Wilmington Loop. I don't know. Does anybody from the council know the status of that? James probably knows, but I don't think he's here yet.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm definitely wanting to fundraise for it or anything I can do to support the project personally.
okay, and the Newport to Newark Trail, I think that they're in some preliminary design stage. Do you know anything about that?
I know that's being run through Newcastle County,
Right,
and they were, I don't know what stage they are. I would have to contact Newcastle County to see where they're at. I know
Now
that
that,
was,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I know that project was one that was awarded a raise grant, I believe last year. With the situation going on in Washington DC, I don't know, as far as I know right now, the funding for those type of grants are frozen for the temporary, so I don't know how that impacts Newcastle County, but I could reach out to Newcastle County and see what the status is of that Newport project.
Okay. Good to see you, by the way. I always see you at Bike to Work Day in Newark.
Jackie's, do you have my email?
I think so.
address? Okay, if you could just send me a follow-up email, and then I'll reach out to Newcastle. Okay. And that Wilmington one, I'm not sure. I'll talk internally within my section if anyone's familiar, but that might still be in Wilmapco, but I don't want to. I have to verify that. So that's something else I'll take a look at as well.
Okay, thanks, John.
You're welcome. He's a panelist. So James is on,
James is on.
but he's only on phone for whatever reason.
Oh, do we
And
know
so-
what he is?
See the Google Pixel.
Should say his phone number. It should be the 1810 thing.
Thing is, this is him. I'm about to talk to him.
Yeah.
James, can you hear us?
He can probably hear us. The question is, can we hear him?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Google Pixel. Yep. Do you want him to answer that last question?
So James, the question came up about the status of the Wilmington Loop, if you know anything about that.
He dropped.
It dropped off. Dang it. Was there anybody else from the public who wanted to talk? That was the only people that we noted when we went through the names. Are they able to somehow indicate?
Yeah, if they raise their hands, yeah, nobody's saying anything.
Okay. Is James on panelist now?
Check. James.
James is there now. James, we're trying to get your sound back. If you can hear us, James, it looks like is he muted?
Not on our end.
If you can hear us, James, you're muted on your end.
He dropped again.
Okay.
There he is.
Okay. Where is he? I don't hear him. James.
It's a great picture of the jam, if that's what that is.
That's Markel's Bridge.
It's not saying anything.
He wants to say something during the public comment. That's why I'm trying to get it to work.
So he just gotta unmute his mic.
James, you just need to unmute on your end. We got your video. Oh, what did you say? Having microphone issues, need to reboot. Okay. Well, James, when you get reconnected, just give a shout out. All right, moving on to new business. So first item under new business is vote for 2024 chair and vice chair.
2025.
John, vote for 2025 chair and vice chair. So Fran's gonna lead this, but just kind of do a quick intro. So at the last meeting, December 2024, Scott Hoffman was nominated for chair and Walt Bryan was nominated for vice chair. No other nominations were submitted. Fran asked if there was any other nominations. There was none. So Fran, can you lead us through the voting process, please?
Sure thing. And according to John, there have been no additional nominations emailed to him. They close as of this meeting, so unless somebody's got a nomination, the nomination for chair is Scott and the nomination for vice chair is Walt.
So Fran, I think I need to move to close the nominations.
Okay. And we'll need a second.
I'll second Mike Tyler.
Okay. I assume all in favor. Let's make it formal. All in favor. Anybody
John.
opposed to closing the motion? Or closing the nomination?
Aye.
If nobody's opposed to closing the nomination, then we need a roll call of each member present to cast their vote, either yes or no for Scott for the chair and Walt for the vice chair. Okay, John, can you help me with that? Do you have a list of the members present?
Scott's getting ready to show me that. All right, I'll go down in order. Walt.
Yeah.
Lauren.
Yes.
Fran.
Yes to both.
Okay. Tom Hartley.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Mike Crumrine.
Yes to both.
Marty. I don't know if he said anything.
Marty, were you there?
Okay. Is Jackie not here? You had to scratch through.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. Wendy.
Yes to both.
Michael Tyler.
Yes to both, even Walter.
Michael Wagner.
Yes to both.
James.
Yes and yes.
Okay, and Sergeant Wheatley.
Yes to both.
So that's all yeses.
Okay, I
Zero
didn't hear
no.
any negative votes, so in that case, Scott will be the chair for 2025 and Walt vice chair for 2025. Congratulations, gentlemen, and thank you.
James, are you good on sound now, buddy?
So I hope that my computer issues have been resolved.
Okay. So quickly, there was a public comment question about the status of the Wilmington Loop. If you know anything about that.
So
Can
the Wilmington Loop has a number of, phases that it's conventionally broken up into. Perhaps the most difficult of those phases is in fact the Newport River Trail, because as the council knows, since we were involved with getting the initial grant money for that project, ultimately it involved, complicated project to actually involve some structures in the Christina River. The Newcastle County applied for a federal raise grant in 2022 or 23 and received that in 2023. But this, unfortunately, there are some now questions being raised about whether or not the federal government will rescind that grant. And that grant is apparently at risk, as is the grant to finish the Lewis to Georgetown Trail, which was another grant that was awarded in 2023. And then, of course, finally a third grant, a Martin Luther King connector in Dover. That one is presumably could be at risk as well.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Okay. So James, do you want to introduce the next topic?
Sure, very briefly. Malcolm, I'm sorry I'm not there in person. Thank you for joining us. So as the council knows, and as Malcolm knows, we gave the town of Clayton, the Delaware Bicycle Council, that is, gave the town of Clayton a $9,000 grant to evaluate the feasibility and cost, Bikeway Innovation Grant, to evaluate the feasibility and cost of extending the Duck Creek Parkway path to the old train station in downtown Clayton, which is a perfectly meritorious project idea on its own. But what makes that grant more exciting than I think it would otherwise be is that once you get to the train station, I'm sure Malcolm is going to talk about this, you are at the beginning of an old Pennsylvania, Wilmington, and Baltimore Railroad right-of-way that's been abandoned for about half a century.
Yeah.
That, and I don't want, and I'm going to be very brief here because Malcolm is going to get into this. That right-of-way extends all the way. That abandoned right-of-way extends all the way to Easton, Maryland, on the Chesapeake Bay. So what we did, what the council, I think, did not know last year was that this is actually something that the Dover-Kent Metropolitan Planning Organization was already aware of. So this is an opportunity for us to make sure that we're not duplicating any efforts and look for opportunities to work together. And Malcolm, I apologize if I stole any of your thunder, but thank you for joining us today.
No problem, James. Thank you for that. And thanks everyone for having me here. Can you hear me okay, or do I need to stand somewhere else, or I'm good? Okay, great. So I'm just here to talk a little bit about what my office does and also where we stand with this rail corridor. I guess I'll preface by saying it's just a study. We're not building anything at this time. We have to go through some processes, jump through some hoops before we get to that point, but we want to get the ball rolling and talk about the existing conditions. And this might be a good way to do it, especially because Clayton and a couple other towns along the corridor are doing some similar small scale projects of their own. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I'm not going to read all this text. I'll spare you the details, but basically the Dover-Kent MPO, we are a metropolitan planning organization. So what happens is somewhere deep within the US Census Bureau, when an urban area hits 50,000 people, then they are designated as an MPO to help with transportation planning for that urban area. That happened with the Dover area back in the 90s. So we've been around for a few decades now. And basically what we do, we act as an intermediary between DelDOT, the municipalities, the other organizations in the area, such as the Bike Council. And we try to coordinate, make sure that projects aren't overlapping. We try to promote certain things to the top of the list if they're a high priority for safety and connectivity. And we do a lot of public outreach. You've probably seen us at Redner's or one of the events happening in the area. And that's kind of our goal, to get people talking about these things and make sure we're all engaged. Next slide, please. I don't need to tell you where Kent County is. You can probably find it on a map. But the short of it is Our population is growing at about the same rate as the state as a whole. So there is demand for some of the work that we do, trying to make sure that new subdivisions have paths and sidewalks and crosswalks and things like that. So really what we do every year, to talk about it briefly, we have our work plan, which has different studies, and some of those are in-house with our team of 6. We're small. Some of them are consultant projects. And what we do with those is we push them out so that either DelDOT can put them into their work plan, their CTP, which matches up with our own work plan, which is called the TIP, or we can hand it off to whoever asked for the project. So the municipalities usually, or maybe another organization, and they can use that to go after grant funding or something like that. And just talk about it very quickly. We just within the last month finished our long range plan, the MTP, which for the first time has kind of a very comprehensive spreadsheet in it. And we wanted to make it easier to pull things out. So we have a list of project ideas, adding sidewalks on a certain road between 2 different segments. And we wanted to make it easier to just pull that out and say, okay, we're looking for bike ped, we can grab that. Do we want to look at carbon reduction? We can grab that. And then we can use that to look into CTF funding or bikeway innovation grants or anything else that might be a good opportunity to get some of these things built. All right, next slide, please. So this is the corridor, or that little map shows the northern half of it from an old map. You can see the red line there. The Delaware portion goes from Clayton towards the southwest all the way to Marydale, and as James indicated, it continues all the way to Easton, Maryland. It was finished after the Civil War, and since then it's changed hands several times. Companies have gone bankrupt and handed it off to somebody else. I won't go through the entire list, but the short of it is Maryland DOT or MDOT currently owns the entire corridor, even the portion in Delaware, which is a little surprising when we found that. But what that means is somebody on this end would need to acquire the parcel in order for something to be built on this end. So like I said, when I gave the introduction, we have to go through a few steps before we get to that point. We've got to talk about who might be willing to take that on, who might be willing to maintain it, what portion can the municipalities pitch in with. And I guess one thing that I'll note is it's very covered in obstacles. You have, I'm sure many of you know, there are plants, there are trees, there are sheds that are encroaching on the property, you have driveways, a few bridges that are downed. So it's not going to be easy to build something like this in its entirety, but maybe we can look at some smaller chunks. Now, officially, it's not abandoned in that sense, because I think in the legal sense of the word, you have to go through a process to abandon it. It has been rail banked. So according to that contract, you need to maintain the right of way and make sure that no permanent structures are built in there. And for the most part, that's the case, but there are a lot of obstacles, like I said. All right, next slide, please. And on the right-hand side, you can see the last time that DelDOT and the other partner organizations looked at rails to trails comprehensively throughout the state. That was a couple decades ago. So we want to update that, especially for this corridor, and figure out what are the existing conditions and what can be done potentially to get this implemented at some point. So that's the layout. We've been working with DelDOT, and this is kind of the outline that they recommended to us. Talk about the background, who might be involved, the alignment, so steps that might be involved to acquire the parcels and who would maintain it, looking at it with GIS and also puffing it through the field and taking some photographs. Public outreach, that's something that we do a lot of. And also some appendices, that's something that we'll tack on, some things like maps, funding resources, and also some examples from throughout the Mid-Atlantic that might help us get that jump start. All right, next slide, please. That's a section of the corridor right there. That is Slaughter Station Road in Hartley facing southward. It looks okay, right? You can see the rail line is still there. It's kind of in the bushes, but for the most part, it's fairly straightforward. There's not a lot obstructing that. If you go to the next slide, you'll see how that's not always the case. We pulled this picture from Google. I know it's a little hard to see, but this is somebody's driveway that it cuts across. Now I did a measurement, and from the edge of the road to the other side of the parcel, it's about 65 feet. So that's 65 feet of MDOT land that these people probably assume is their own property. They mow it. That's their mailbox there. That's their trees. So that's an example of some of the issues that might need to be worked out. The good thing is I don't think there are too many driveways like that, but this is an example of one of the driveways that appears. And the old rail line goes right through their yard.
So Malcolm, in that photo, the right of way between the road and the tracks belongs to MDOT then?
Yep.
Okay.
But as far as I know, they maintain it, the property owners. So that might be an ongoing challenge if, if they don't want a trail cutting across their front yard, we might need to look at alternatives. We haven't gotten that far yet. We're just trying to identify where some of the concerns are. All right, next slide.
Hey, Malcolm, just to be clear, it's not their front yard.
Oh no, it's not, but they might see it as such. We haven't spoken to any homeowners yet. We're not quite that far. But if you live somewhere for long enough, then nobody's come by. I'll tell you, MDOT hasn't maintained this corridor at all. So I think any property owners along there will just assume it belongs to them unless they look at the map.
I think you'll find that eminent domain lasts for 25 years. So if they haven't done anything for 25 years, those people own it.
We might need to look into that a little more. If that's true, then there might be some fragments in the corridor. I know some of it goes by the Tappahannock Wildlife Area. Some of it is through farmland. So it's not all front yards like that. I think that's kind of an exception. So another photo here, as you can see, this is one of the serious concerns as far as getting the corridor built, because this is one of the streams that it crosses, and there's no bridge there. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know when it came down, but there are a couple streams along the corridor. One of them is I think Greens Branch, and another one is Harrington Beaver Dam Branch, which is by Marydale. I can't remember exactly which one this is, but this is one of the most expensive obstacles that would need to be addressed. I can tell you we've spoken to a few people who look at these things regularly, and we asked them how much would this cost to get the corridor cleared from Clayton Marydale, and they said a lot. And that's in part because of these stream crossings. Right, yeah, next slide. And so to get back to James's original point, this isn't any fancy GIS, the map on the right, that's just something I threw together in PowerPoint. The orange is roughly where the current trails or sidewalks are found, and the red is something that Clayton is looking into. So correct me if I'm wrong, James. I believe from what we discussed with the town and looking at their scope, they want to connect that missing chunk in front of the high school and then find a way down to the park and the railroad station. And then anything further than that would go down to the bottom left corner of the map, which is, it's hard to see, but that's where the abandoned rail corridor begins.
So the somewhat reduced, I think, plans of the town here are, so the yellow already exists, right? So it may when we were out there, it looked like maybe it might need some work, but anyway, the grant that the bikeway innovation grant that the council gave was to do not that whole red thing, but just sort of the red, the the straight line that goes from where the yellow turns onto Bassett Street there, and then just goes through that. It's just a long skinny parcel of land, and then crossing the main street there, and then to the train station.
Yeah, and from my standpoint, that's a very good project because it helps with connectivity and, in a town, it's going past several schools, which is good for getting the students safely to and from. And the bikeway grant will definitely go a long ways with that, and it ties in with a potential future project. But as I indicated, that's a little further down the line. This is more from our side of things. It's more looking at the corridor and talking about these other things that are happening in tandem with it, so that way we don't overlap too much, and so we can give it a little momentum and say, hey, this is already being looked at. Why don't we look a little further? And who knows, Clayton might want to look into the section of the trail, the abandoned rail line within their town. We're still kind of talking to them about that.
So because this is, maybe the most important reason why we want you here today. So unless their engineering firm does more than we think they are, they're going to just give a feasibility and cost estimate for just getting to the train station. So in terms of the next phase, and my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is once you're at the train station and you're going for any further, you're talking about MDOT property, right?
So I believe when we spoke to the town manager, what he said is the first part, I think the first segment would go to the municipal park and the train station. And then anything beyond that, you can cut across. I think there's some industrial property there along the railroad track, and then there's the school. But anything beyond the old train station would be an additional phase. Right now, they're only going to the train station. So yes, I think
is it your understanding that once you go past the train station, that then we're talking about MDOT property?
I don't think so. Some of it is, so you're almost there. I think there's only a little further to go, but you would have to go through either the school there or whoever owns, it's not MDOT, but whoever owns the active rail corridor, which is right next to the MDOT section.
So I apologize for being a little, drilling into the weeds here, but just thinking about, like a possible phase 2, is there a possible phase 2 here that could move forward even before we solved the MDOT problem?
I think it could definitely be looked at. As far as I'm aware, nothing could be built because nobody in Delaware owns that land. And I haven't been a direct part of those conversations, but our executive director has been speaking to the folks at MDOT, and from what they've indicated, they don't really intend to hand over that corridor in chunks. So it would have to be done basically all at once. And the flip side to that is the folks on this end, DENREC, DelDOT, whoever would be involved, wouldn't want to take something this messy. And it would need to be cleaned up because MDOT is the current owner. So as far as I know, we can definitely look into it and look at some options for getting from the abandoned line to the train station in Clayton, figuring out how that might work, and maybe even looking at the beginning of that corridor within Clayton. That might be a good phase 2. But we can't build anything until all of that is settled. So this is really just from our side of it, it's looking at the options.
So I apologize. I may be being a little thick here. When you're at the train station and you want to go far, and the town of Clayton wants to go farther, is that at that point, are you looking at Maryland Department of Transportation parcel or parcels?
Not quite. That would be, you have to get through one or two other parcels.
And
So it
who are
would
those?
be,
Do you know who those are owned by?
one of them is, do you think you can go back one slide, please?
One of them is Delaware RR Real Estate.
Yeah, one of them is Active Railroad, I believe. And it's hard to see on that map. It's in the bottom left. But there's an active railroad there just to the right of the red line. And then the parcel to the left of that is it's Smyrna School District property. So that's what's in between the railroad, which is, or the old railroad station, which is that junction in the red line. And then at the bottom, which is where it would terminate.
So it is possible to, is it then possible to imagine that town of Clayton could do a phase 2 project before the whole Maryland Department of Transportation thing is figured out?
As far as I know, yes. Yeah. I mean, so nothing on that end from what you're seeing there would touch the MDOT land. So yes, they could study it and they could even build something if they want. This line that I drew is the most direct route, but if we found out that didn't work, we might need to go around on School Lane or some other way to get there. But yes, we can look into it right now because it doesn't touch the MDOT parcel at all. But we're trying to have those conversations in the meantime, so that way we can at least move things along slowly and make sure that we don't let things slip through the cracks. All right, next slide.
And would it make sense for the council maybe at its March 8th, maybe at its April meeting to hear from somebody at DelDOT who is, I thought I heard you say there's some conversation happening directly between DelDOT and MDOT. Is that, did I hear you say that?
I can't speak on that too much personally. It sounds like some folks of DelDOT have been involved in the conversations. We've mostly spoken with MDOT up to this point, but there are a few people at DelDOT who have been guiding us a little bit on things. And
Malcolm, it's Pam. I think maybe Anthony might have reached out or Paul, but it's been a while, so I'm not sure if they actually spoke with MDOT or not. But I mean, if there's that would definitely be the need to be even think about this being a possibility. They would need to be on board with that. So, I mean, I would not, my feelings wouldn't be hurt if either somebody from the council or the MPO reached out to Maryland just to see, what they're kind of, if they have any future plans for it, shall I say, with the intention of saying that there is no, we're just asking for info, that we're not, moving forward right now. But
I think that's correct, Pam. Thanks for clearing that up. Anthony and Paul have been involved. They've been helping us as we got this started. They were the ones who gave us that template for putting the whole study together. I don't know how much the two of them have been involved in speaking with MDOT, and I don't want to speak on anyone on DelDOT's behalf because I don't want to make it sound like you guys are saying, hey, let's go after this, because it's a monumental task. It's expensive. And as far as I know, nothing can happen until MDOT cleans up the corridor. We're just looking at the existing conditions right now. But that is a good reminder to keep the bike council in the loop as we go forward, because we definitely want to hear what you guys think, if you have ideas and anything like that.
So are you guys communicating with MDOT at all?
We are, yes.
You are, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So are
Yep,
you,
they reach
usually. Is it, I was briefly in contact with Meg Young, who is their I don't know, Jeff Nisgoda or Jeff Nisgoda's deputy equivalent, so that, deputy director of their active transportation section. But let me just leave it. Let me just say, I would be interested, I don't want to speak for the whole council, at our, April meeting, if we could get a little bit of an update on what this at least looks like from the Maryland side of things, so, just so we sort of understand the parameters here of this issue, where I sort of, so Malcolm, would you correct me if I'm wrong? So I'm under the impression that the Maryland Department of Transportation does not want to own a bunch of abandoned railroad right away in a different state.
That's correct. And our executive director can speak more on this, but from what I've heard, they don't want to own parcels of land in another state that they're not maintaining, that they have no use for. There's really no.
So if somebody in Delaware said, we will pay you $1 for this big right of way, Maryland Department of Transportation probably would say yes. The problem is, getting somebody willing to take it for $1.
I think they would basically hand it over, but again, that means they would need to clean it up, and that wouldn't be cheap. And you would need somebody on this end to take responsibility for those parcels and maintain them, maintain the trails, deal with all of those concerns. And so that has to be worked out before anything could be, way before anything.
Can you imagine somebody in Delaware going, we will take it as it is in its terrible state?
Oh yeah, well, we've been wondering about that, and it would be nice to see, because there are 2 or 3 sections on the Maryland side that have been built within the municipal boundaries, and it's Easton and Ridgely. Those are the 2 towns that have worked on it. And for a while I thought, hey, something like that would be great if we could work on chunks here, if Clayton could do their portion and Hartley could do theirs, but that won't work because MDOT owns the entire corridor.
Yeah, so they don't want to. What I'm hearing here is you think they don't want to spend all the money to clean it up and then give it to them.
No, but they might have to. That might be the only way for anyone to move forward with this, because nobody on this end would want to take a messy corridor like that with all the. I'm not even talking about the bridges. I just mean the plants and people's mailboxes and plastic flamingos and whatever else they have in the in the right of way.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, where you say, you I mean, it's kind of a Delaware thing, right? We kind of like other people to pay for our stuff. But when I think about like these 2 unlikely things, like MDOT spends a whole bunch of money to make this right away in not such a terrible state, and then hands it over to us for nothing, or somebody here is willing to take it over even though it's in a terrible state. Like I acknowledge that both of those are problematic, but it kind of feels like the first one, so Maryland spending a whole bunch of money in Delaware, seems the slightly less likely thing to happen.
Yeah, it's tough to say, but to that note, a partnership may be possible. I mean, we've kind of looked at some other trails, and the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal Trail, that was a partnership between the 2 states. So that may be an option that we could consider, trying to link up some of those towns. You can see on the map here, actually, there's an example of one of those issues that comes from the ownership. So the red polygon there is a portion of land in Hartley, and the town came to us and said, hey, we'd like to turn this into a park. It's technically not in the town boundaries. There's a bunch of wetland on the north side there, but they want to do something with maybe that southern portion. The trouble with that is it's actually behind the rail corridor. So I don't know how that would work. I have no clue, but it's right adjacent to where the corridor is. So down the road, that might be a good option to develop a park similar to what Clayton has next to the old railroad station. And so that's something that they're looking into. We're trying to think about all these things, at least on the Delaware side of the border. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, I suppose. That's really where we currently stand. It's a slow process. We did some early work. We're going to try to meet with each of the towns, have more conversations with both DelDOT and MDOT and anybody else involved. I'm sure DENREC would like to hear about this. We've actually been speaking to, I think it was Mike Tholstrup, who's aware of what's going on. And we're going to try to get out in the public and hear their thoughts. That photo is from Ridgely in Maryland, and they developed about a half-mile of rail trail within their boundaries. They still have this fantastic old station that's been refurbished. They have these cars that are sitting along the side of it. Looks great. And that could be an example of what may come down the road. But again, a lot has to be done before then. So I just want to communicate with you guys. This is what we're doing. We're trying to look at the existing conditions and potentially map a path forward. But we're not building anything right now because a lot more has to be.
Malcolm. Hey, I had a quick question. As part of what your effort was there anything, and I am just speaking, I have no idea if it can be done, but like for these types of efforts, like for conversion of a rail to trail, like they're all throughout the whole country. So have there been any, like, is there any data or anything we can do to see about like the likelihood of people using it? Like I know a lot of bike ped facilities are, yet you don't know till they like you build it and they come, but I just didn't know if that, or if anybody on the council actually has information on that as to like projected, like how you estimate usage or connection.
I think that's a very good question. And first of all, it's sort of a chicken and egg situation, as you can imagine. I mean, I'd like to think if you build it, they'll come, but it's hard to estimate that. And one thing that's been pointed out to me when we're working on this is it is a rural area. And so people would have to go here with the intention of exercising and going somewhere rather than a large municipality flooding onto it. Yeah, I know a few of you have your hands up.
So there's no, Pam, there's no, ITE trip generation manual for rail trails. And of course, there's the, these are common, they're not just, they're used for transportation and recreation. So that's another variable that's hard, that I don't think there's like a systematic, manual that tells you, how to deal with that. And, there's also not like, when you build a road, there's kind of an existing network already there, and you're sort of plugging something extra into the network. Whereas with something like this, it's kind of like, they're kind of a little bit on its own as a low stress facility for cycling. So I think all of those things make it tricky to guess, what kind of use you'll see.
Looks like Mike's got his hand up. Mike Tyler.
Yeah, one of the things I think I've read about railroads is they maintain right of way in perpetuity. The only thing that would be the problem is if they sold that right of way to somebody who's like where that driveway crosses. If they purchased it, they own it. But if not, the railroad, it's in perpetuity. they still have the right of way. But you need to do some investigating about that.
I think
I'm
Mike,
not a lawyer, but that was my impression as well.
yeah.
Hey, Malcolm, this is Mike Crumrine with Delaware State Parks. I don't know if anybody has told you or anything, but we actually did a very extensive investigation into the Clayton Easton rail line back in kind of I'm trying to remember roughly the dates, but it was back in the Markel era when we were looking for all kinds of trails and pathway connections. And we had actually done a lot of planning work on it at the time. The problem that we ran into that eventually kiboshed the whole thing does come down to the ownership with the fact that MDOT, the state of Maryland essentially owns the corridor. And at the time, I don't believe they were willing to transfer that over to us in any way, shape, or form. But they were talking, we were negotiating with use agreements. But the problem that we came into was figuring out liability of the whole thing. I think what basically was happening was Maryland was requiring the state of Delaware to basically insure it, which of course the state of Delaware doesn't do. They offer public indemnity. And that was kind of the sinking point of the whole project, and it eventually just died and went away. But we had spent several years working on that.
Mike,
Well, if you have
Mike,
anything at all, send it our way. I'd love to see what you came up with. We can talk to you guys further about that.
Yeah, I probably still have a lot of the original GIS files for it, I think. James, I don't know if you remember that or not, because I think you were, kind of working with us on some of these projects. I don't know if you remember that one.
I was around, but I was I wouldn't have been involved in any of the detailed planning that you're talking about.
Yeah, it was a big Susan Rochelle passion project at the time. Of course, she's since retired a while back, but
I didn't catch the name. Who was this?
Susan Rochelle.
Oh, Susan Rochelle.
Yeah, she was the one that was trying to spearhead it. But.
So Malcolm, given Mike's comment, does it? Well, let me put it this way. I'm curious if maybe MDOT is in a different place. It'd be nice to confirm, that impression that we have that, if we were willing to take it as is, they would give it to us. Do we know that for sure?
My impression was they don't want to own and maintain it anymore. But that also gets back to the question of who would clean it up. But yes, I feel like, to answer your question, the feeling I got was different than what was previously felt about MDOT's thoughts on it. I think that they don't want to own this property anymore because it's in another state. And I think they're even looking into that in other states that their rail lines kind of spill over into.
So if Dover Ken MPO is really taking the lead on this. I don't want to step on your toes, but I don't know if you know this about the Delaware Bicycle Council. We are an entity of government. We are, created by statute, state statute, the way Dover Ken MPO is created by federal statute. But maybe we move a little more quickly than some other entities of government. So this summer, we're going to be giving out another round of Bikeway Innovation Grants. And so, we don't, no requirement obviously to give another one to Clayton, but, it'd be good to know whether, that's even something that makes any sense. And so I'm just wondering, would it advance the ball for the Maryland Department of Transportation to make kind of like a formal offer to somebody, like, here, you can have this for $1 if you're willing to take it? And even if the answer is no, we're not, there is nobody in Delaware who's willing to take this right away as is, even for $1, at least then, we would have, we'd sort of all be on the same page, and maybe that would be the next step. You could say, well, this governmental entity would be willing to take it if, X was done to the right way, whatever, just, move the negotiating ball along.
Yeah, so personally, I think, I'm not as familiar with how the bikeway innovation grants have been used in the past, but just off the top of my head, I think a good use for it would be phase 2, like we discussed. So getting from the old railroad station to the northern terminus of that corridor. And now that wouldn't address anything within the MDOT property, but it would still potentially help move things forward because we could let them know on the other side, hey, we're looking to make some connections and we're trying to move this forward. Meanwhile, we'll still continue our study, which is looking at the corridor portion of it, and that's going to go until probably the end of this year. So if those two things could happen together, that might help give a little momentum. That's just off the top of my head what I think the grant would be most useful for.
So I don't think, the council is not really an entity that really, this is a negotiation that we don't really bring anything at all to the table, but I think I would be interested in the status of the negotiation. So maybe, not here, but like, tomorrow or next week, we can connect with Maryland and just sort of, find out where the negotiations are, and if there's anything we can do. I don't know that there is, but we want to help if we can.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and we'll keep you guys updated. I'll follow up with my team and see if we've heard anything from MDOT lately, and if not, we'll try reaching out to them. We're doing a couple things for Clayton right now in addition to what the innovation grant is helping with. So we're in constant communication with those people. So yeah, I think the conversation is gonna keep going, but we're gonna at some point start reaching out to some of the stakeholders. And we had initially thought maybe some kind of working group would be nice. I don't know how easy that's going to be because everybody's on their own schedule. Everyone from these small towns might be a little bit harder to connect with and get them all in one room at the same time. But if nothing else, we want to meet with them individually.
So we don't,
as well as
John Fiore from Delaware provides a little bit of staff support, but the council's, there's all of the public members of the council are volunteers, and the agency members are, they have their own full-time job. Being on the Delaware Council is not, Delaware Bicycle Council is not their actual job. They're sort of, this is like an extra thing that they do. So we have over the years looked for opportunities to be effective in a way that reflects that sharp constraint on capacity. So one thing that we don't really do a whole bunch of or much at all is what Dover Kent does a lot of, all this stuff about public engagements and stakeholder groups and public workshops and all that kind of thing, which is, I think, kind of, absolutely central to what Dover Kent MPO does. We don't really do any of that. So the Bikeway Innovation Grant really reflects those capacity constraints. So when we provide a grant to a municipality, for example, it's really to fill that hole of like, how much, is this thing feasible and how much will it cost? So we tend to shy away from funding, websites and public engagement and workshops. We just want, some engineers to go back and do the technical work necessary to sort of take something that's just an idea and turn it into, at least a potential project. So I think you probably know that about the Bikeway Innovation Grant, but I just wanted to make sure that it was clear in your head, since it's kind of different than the way Dover Kent MPO does things. So as you you know, we're always looking for ideas every year as we do these round of grants, and we've got more money in 2025 than we ever have had in the past. So if you have ideas that fit that Bikeway Innovation Grant model, please let any city or town in Kent County know that this grant opportunity is out there, and that if you think it fits with the kind of thing that they are looking for help with, let them know.
Yeah, so we have a list of all the different grants and other funding opportunities that we tried to get the different communities to apply for. And since we've been speaking to you about this, we've definitely added the Bikeway Innovation Grant to the list. It's a good one. Even just speaking with the folks in Clayton, they're happy with what's being done. And I'll check with them and see if they would be interested in looking at another phase to continue that pathway southward towards the rail line.
The nice thing about the Bikeway Innovation Grant as compared to like a federal grant, I mean, I'm imagining that these many or most of these opportunities you're talking about are like federal sources of grant money. But apart from what's going on in Washington D.C., those are hard, right? I mean, I don't think your typical Delaware town has the capacity to fill out a federal grant application. They probably have to rely on you, the MPO, because there's so many hoops that you have to jump through. The Bikeway Innovation Grant is just orders of magnitude easier and simpler. It's really designed to be something that, a little tiny town in Kent County can do. They can just go online, put in their name, a little map, paragraph of what they do, and it's just super. You don't have to be a transportation professional, a planner with an AICP, credential. You can just be a regular person, a part-time mayor making $1,500 a year, and you still can fill out this very easy Bikeway Innovation Grant application.
And that's really important because, as you indicated, the challenge of filling out those applications can be a serious barrier sometimes.
People hire consultants just to fill out these applications. Yep. But if you're a little Kent County town, you don't have money to do this project, and that means you don't have money to hire the engineering firm to help you do the project, which means you don't have money to hire the consultant to help you fill out the application. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's true. And so to that end, we'll definitely try to keep the communication open. There might be times when you guys have connections with a town that we can't get through to, or vice versa. We'll certainly give you ideas every spring, and try to work with the towns and push them, hey, you might want to apply while there's still time. So that might help move things along a little.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Any other questions for Malcolm? Okay, cool. Thanks, Malcolm.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll give you my email when we're done.
Okay, great.
So you can send us updates. All right, everybody, we're on to old business. First item under old business is Junction Breakwater Trail connection to the Glade. And our update there is pretty soon after the meeting. I think last meeting, it might have been the next day. I think John was sent a communication from, I guess it was the board of the Glade, the HOA maybe?
Members of the HOA.
Members of the HOA, and they basically said that they were not interested in any kind of trail connection, and asked us not to be involved in that. So I think that's the end of us trying to help them with that, because they have to do their own thing.
Hey, this is Mike again. I do have a little bit of an update on that.
Okay, Mike.
So I just found out today that apparently DelDOT is going to be doing, it's looking like it, it's not final, but a feasibility study along Holland Glade Road, and I guess DenRec is gonna co-sponsor that, and they're gonna do a feasibility study to see what it would cost and what obstacles there are to do something along the road connecting the J&B Trail to the development.
Okay, awesome.
Maureen has a question.
What's that?
Maureen, she has a question.
Marie. Go ahead with your question. Is she there?
Can you hear me okay? Hear me now?
Yeah.
I represent, I'm one of the representatives of the Glade, and I'm here with our president from the POA. So I'm not sure, Mike, who contacted you about the Glade not interested in any other connection, because that's absolutely not true. But you are right, Mike. I have been in touch with DenRec and DelDOT about the Transportation Alternative Program, and DenRec has agreed to sponsor our application for a feasibility and cost study of improvements for bike path potential improvements on Holland Glade Road. So I'm not sure, but I would be interested in knowing where you got the information about the Glade POA, because I'm here with the president of the POA, and I don't believe that information is accurate. So, any questions?
Oh, it sounds like you're on the right path now, Maureen. So if you want to contact me, I can give you that.
Okay, thank you. That'd be great, Scott. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Mike, for that update. So next item is the bike lane signal loop detector, and unfortunately, I am not prepared to talk about that tonight. I don't have all my information together yet, so we'll have to push that to the next meeting. Bill, I apologize for that. Just got caught up in a lot of work stuff in January, and I wasn't able to get that all together. So next item, Walt, is there any update on anything that you know about a trail crossing of the Georgetown to Lewis Trail?
Well, a little bit. I guess the main thing about this trail crossing in Cool Spring, it appears, well, they're in place. The Sussex Land Trust built a trail from Cool Spring Road up to Hudson Road. The DelDOT built the trail from Cool Spring up to Hudson on the opposite side of Route 9. Now, my question is, and they're starting the trail from Georgetown eastbound. Where's that trail going to hook up with the DelDOT side of Route 9 or the Sussex Land Trust side of Route 9? I don't know. Now, add a little bit to this. I'm involved with the Sussex Land Trust in another project, and I've asked them a couple of times what their thoughts are, and I haven't gotten any answer. You know, the Land Trust built the Hudson Park there on the, I guess, southwest, whatever, on the opposite of Route 9. And it's a nice parking lot, it's a nice facility, and the trail goes up to the other road up there where Dollar General is, where the traffic light is. Anyway, that's just a great big question that I put out there. I've talked to Todd Lawson, the Sussex County administrator, and he really doesn't know. What I did suggest to the county, though, was what James said. Well, why don't you put a tunnel under the road like they do in the Netherlands. And I haven't gotten any response, which doesn't surprise me because, you know, we just had an election here in Sussex County, the council, and we got 3 new members. And I guess it's safe to say that right now the county council is trying to get their bearings. There's been a lot of discussion is the nice word for it. So I don't know.
Walter, this is Mike Tyler. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
At the 5 Points meeting, I had mentioned the fact that the bridge is really a missing link that is important, and it's a safety issue. And they said, well, it costs a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. But then after the meeting, I spoke to Todd. Todd said, Mike, I support you very much, and there should be some kind of bridge going to go over the road. And I said, well, it doesn't have to be the Delaware Memorial Bridge. I said, they built a bridge over Route 24 at the golf course there, and that's not, that didn't cost $gazillion. And so he was in favor of my concepts, but I don't know where that's going. And you said you've had talked with him, but he sounds like he's amenable to something to be done.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, personally, I think the tunnel is the best idea. Just if you put a sealed tube under Route 9, and that's it, you're done. A bridge would cost the bridge that went across 24 down there at Townsend Poultry 20 years ago. It started out at $1.5 million, and it cost them close to $6 million by the time they got done. But
I'm talking about the one at the golf course there, and that's just not a real expensive bridge, and that could be easily done.
Yes, you can. I agree.
And it wouldn't be millions of dollars.
You're right.
So we really need to light a flame under somebody's butt to get thinking positively about this.
Well, I thought I would give them 2 or 3 months and let county council get their, settle down and know where they're going and how they're going to get there, and then I'd mention it again.
Good point. Well, if you need me, I'll be happy to be a voice with you.
Okay, buddy. I got one more question though. Paul H., who is on, can you hear me, Paul?
You mean Peter?
Yeah, he's mute. There you go. Peter, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Do you have something to do with the design and/or implementation of these roundabouts?
From a traffic control device perspective, I'm involved, but not the design of the actual roundabout. Why? What's the concern?
Well, I guess something's got to be done to I don't see the ones that are in place getting redesigned, but the ones that are in the future should not be designed like the ones we got. Now, are you a DelDOT employee, Peter?
Yes, I am. I'm our chief of traffic engineer.
So I'll look you up on the email list. And what's your last name?
Haag, H-A-A-G.
All right. I'll send you an email next week or so and share my thoughts, and we'll see if we can't do something.
Yeah, we could talk offline.
Okay, yeah, we don't need to talk now. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good to hear you.
Thank you, Walt. Okay, John, last agenda item is bikeway projects update. All right. Is there a presentation for that?
Yes.
You guys should have this right here.
Okay.
John's stepping up his game, man.
Yeah, he is.
We're getting John's presentation pulled up.
Give me a second.
Yeah, just go full. Okay. You guys see that okay?
All right, you ready? All
Yeah, we can see it.
right, so this is just the update of some of the projects we have at Delta for bicycle improvements. This slide just gives some recently completed projects since 2022. 3 projects that were completed last year was the Senator Bikeway Phase 3, which goes from Mifflin Road to Dover High School. Another project completed was the Big Oak Pathway, which goes from US 13 to Big Oak Park in Smyrna. That was completed in October. And the last project is the School Lane Pathway in Newcastle County. That was completed in November. For some of the members of the council, they may remember this as receiving an innovation grant a few years ago. And then due to that grant, the project was able to go through the process through DelDOT and through review and construction. So next slide. So next are going to be some updates of the projects that we have. The first one is the Double Bridges multi-use path. This is a 10-foot wide path along Double Bridges Road from Muddy Neck to Parker House. Right now, the final construction plans are being reviewed. We anticipate PS&E in July of this year and anticipate construction sometime in fiscal year 27. Right now, we are addressing the semifinal comments for this project. Next slide.
Hey, John. On the double bridges, quick question.
Okay.
When I looked last, the DelDOT project portal website for that project was not there.
When did you last look?
Well, about a week ago.
All right, I'll have to check.
John, about how long is that path?
It's pretty long.
Closer to a mile or 10 miles or?
You would ask that question.
Sorry.
I'll have to get back with you. I don't know the exact mileage. I'm sorry. But James, I'll check on that portal.
Yeah.
See if
I
it's,
just John, I just clicked on it. It's not up.
Okay. All right.
I think the answer is 5 miles,
That's what I was thinking.
according to
Okay.
looking at the map.
All right, I'll see about the portal. Okay, next one is the Augustine Cutoff bike improvements, excuse me. Again, this was a project that received a bicycle grant award a couple years ago and has moved through the process in which now DelDOT is working on it. We have preliminary construction plans in May with semifinal in July, final in November, and PS&E in February of next year. Right now, it is in the survey stage, so the survey plans are currently under review. Okay, next slide, please. Let's see.
Should be Cedar Neck, right?
I thought it was Cedar Neck. Did you?
Yeah, there's one missing. Go back one.
All right, I got it. I'll find it. Let's see. This one. All right, next one. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Next slide. Yeah, okay, one more. Okay, I got it. All right, so for the coastal highway, this project was talked about earlier as part of the 5 points working group. Last update I have was from our dot section was that they're still trying to find a program to build this project. And at this time, I do not have a schedule. So next slide, please. These Kings Highway project from Dartmouth to Freeman. This includes a road widening as well as multimodal facilities such as a shared use path. The semi-final construction plans are scheduled in August of this year, with final construction plans in October of 27 and PS&E scheduled in June of 28. So this one is quite a ways out from construction. All right, next. Cedar Neck Road pathway. This is a path along Cedar Neck Road from the canal to Hickman Road. The project is scheduled for PS&E in June of this year and anticipate construction beginning in November. Next. The Georgetown to Lewis Trail. Excuse me. This is a 10-foot wide shared use path from Fisher Road heading west towards the existing trail that was completed a couple years ago from the Georgetown Little League Park to Airport Road. So this would be basically between Fisher Road and Airport Road. They had the groundbreaking ceremony in December, and however, due to, now this was a project that was talked about earlier. It did receive a federal RAISE grant, but as we all know, those are temporarily frozen for now. So at this time, construction is on hold until the outcome of the grants are determined. So next slide. The West Street pathway, this is along West Street and Dover. And it's it's where the existing path along West Street ends and continues south to New Burton Road. The project was PS&E, will be PS&E this month, I'm sorry. And we anticipate construction beginning of the summer of this year. Next slide, please. Muncie Branch Phase 2. This is a continuation of the Phase 1 that was completed a couple years ago. It consists of a 10-foot wide path along Muncie Branch Road from Field Lane to Wolf Neck Road. They had the pre-construction meeting. They will be having the pre-construction meeting this month, and then with construction anticipating beginning in March of 25. Next slide. And this again was another project that was kind of talked about earlier tonight, the MLK Boulevard. This project also received a RAISE grant, and it is currently being worked on right now. Even though funds are temporarily frozen, we still have funds that were obligated, which should get us through the preliminary plan stage. And then at that time, we'll have to determine if the project will be able to move forward or not. But as of right now, the schedule is preliminary plans scheduled for August of this year, semi-final in December, final constructions June of next year, and PS&E March of 27. So this is again one that is in the early process. And that, again, the survey plans are currently under review. Next project, next slide. This is the US 113 pathway phase 1 in Milford. It consists of a 10-foot wide shared use path along the existing side of US 13 from the existing path at the plaza at Milford, and will extend all the way to Buccaneer Street. And the project is currently under review, and we are addressing preliminary comments now. We anticipate semifinal in March of this year, final right away and construction in July, and PS&E in November of this year. And I think that's the last slide. All right, so that's my updates.
I have a quick question.
All right.
So I know that they had a public meeting on West Street. But when you go on the portal, there's nothing but like some text about what the project is. Is there like, was there any presentation of the concept or anything, you know, at the public meeting?
I was not at the public meeting, but I know they always have display boards.
Yeah.
So I would have to, I mean, I don't have access to that, and it's really up to the project manager.
I get it. Yeah.
To put that information on there. So I can. Did you need to see any of them, or you?
I was just curious.
Okay, I do know they had boards that were presented that had, you know, existing and proposed.
Yeah.
Of the project.
They're not very consistent on the project portals.
Yeah.
Some have a lot of information and some don't have.
It's
that
kinda-
same level.
Kind of depends on who the project manager engineer is. Yeah, so that's all I can say on that.
Gotcha.
Karen, you would like to make a comment?
Okay.
Quick question, John. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This presentation you just gave, is it on the website?
It was supposed to have been, but I don't think it was posted yet. So I'm going to try and work with our DTI section tomorrow to get it posted, but it will be.
I think Karen Z has a question.
If not, just email it to me. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I can email the presentation to the council. Yes, Karen.
I just put something in the chat because I didn't have a way to share it. When you were talking about that bridge in 24, remember that's a private bridge there. And remember when it was first proposed and built, there was a hotel that was going to be built on the other side. So just keep that in mind when you're, you know, proposing bridges. Usually they want to see there's a reason somebody's going to cross over that bridge. So you might want to keep that in mind when you're talking about the trailhead and what you're proposing.
Talking about, Karen?
Weren't you just talking about that building a bridge or a tunnel
Pardon?
at Clear Springs, connecting those bridges?
I don't know. I don't understand.
You were referring to the bridge that was the Townsend property, right?
At the Townsend Poultry Plant.
Oh, that one. Okay, wrong bridge. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Thanks.
All right.
Just offering information. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our agenda for tonight.
Walt, that's your cue.
What's that? So move.
Motion to adjourn.
I wonder how Roger Roy is enjoying. Is he in Florida?
He is. I spoke to him just a couple days ago. He's doing good. He butt dialed me.
Great, great.
So we got a first and second. Thank you, everybody.